Good morning, Mr. Larry. How are you?
Doing all right. About yourself?
Oh, I'm better than a cheetah in a foot race on a Thursday.
There you go.
Hey,
Good
Larry,
morning, Marty. Good morning, Robin.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
Dan.
Nicole.
What was
So,
that, Jason?
sorry, I was letting them say good morning to everyone. I was
Oh,
saying Larry Miles for your radio name.
hold on. I didn't have my volume up high enough. What was that?
How did you ever come up with Larry Miles as your radio name?
Short story. Um, my real last name is Hill and Yard, the two words put together, right? So when I got here in Tucson in 1981, program director at the radio station said, "You're up against your competition, 7 to midnight, with a guy with the name Bob Cook." And so he goes, one syllable name, easy to remember. He's got a strong following. You've got your work cut out for you. You need a last name. You need a radio name. So I sat down in there was the Tucson Inn down on Drackman, and I sat down with the phone book and my hotel room the first night I was here, and went through the phone book just picking names. Made a list of about 20 names and slowly worked my way through them until I ended up with that.
Oh, nice.
So you let your fingers do the walking, huh?
Yeah, to give me a name that I was going to use in the business for the next 20 years.
Mm.
I always wondered how that worked out. Like, Dan Caldwell doesn't exactly sound like a very famous person. You throw a big in front of it, oof, we've changed the game.
Yeah, it's kind of that back in 1981, imaging and branding and all of that stuff wasn't one of those bigger advertising marketing things. I mean, certainly people had that, but most of it was stage name type stuff. And people came up with some pretty good names. When I went to San Jose to work for, it's kind of a sideways story for this morning, but it's funny at the same time. The radio station I went to work for in San Jose, the call letters were KOME. Think about it.
Cool.
So some of the marketing was pretty risque. But one of the DJs, the DJ that was on at night, his name was Dennis Erectus.
That's funny.
Well, you had a lot of stiff competition, didn't you?
You got your brum punch, yeah.
Right.
And
It would have been real hard to get ahead in that market.
yeah, some of the slug lines the radio station used literally for their public advertising were pretty crude. And I'll spare the ladies here and not get graphic.
You have Dan and I to do that.
Well, awesome, guys. Dick, how was your weekend?
By the way,
Can you call me back in half an hour? I'm on a Zoom.
I can. Marla, I can call you back in half an hour.
Oops.
the name Dan Caldwell should be a name of an author. So I would suggest you write a 2-page ebook and put it on the internet, and you can refer yourself as the author, Dan Caldwell, because people will believe that. It sounds like a great author's name.
Dan Caldwell. You want to hear something funny? Anyone heard of Tap Out Clothing? The fight company Tap Out Clothing? The creator of Tap Out Clothing is Dirty Dan Caldwell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I know him.
Is he a wrestler?
No, he is a tiny, filthy little man.
So the name applies.
It
Well,
does.
maybe he's a wrestler. I don't know.
He's a Vegasite kind of person. My ex-girlfriend knew him, and I was introduced to him. And he throws his money around and does what you would think a total scumbag would do. And yeah, and he is a Dan Caldwell also, but he is a tiny man. So
He's not big Dan Caldwell.
no, he's not. So the beautiful thing we're talking about branding this morning, and branding is as important as scripting can ever be, is just how you present yourself every and each opportunity you get to. So it's super important when you guys answer the phone. How are you answering it, Dick?
Good afternoon. This is Dick Nichols, the go-to guy. How can I help you?
All right. How about you, Isaac? How are you going to answer the phone?
Let me do more something like this. Good morning, this is Isaac with Keller Williams Realty Phoenix. How can I help you?
Perfect. Identify who you're with, who you're going. And when you call somebody, Nicole, what are you going to say?
Good morning. My name is Nicole Bubik with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. First and last names. That's what I like that. Like Dick Nichols. Like, I don't think I've ever said just Dick to him. Hey, Dick. No, it's always Dick Nichols because that's his name. He's the go-to guy.
Well, I always tell people that I had a reading difficulty when I was a kid. And I used to interchange my I's with my U's until I was 11 years of age. I thought my name was Duck Knuckles. They don't forget my name.
No, they don't, sir. I remember that story when you told it to me inside of a kitchen off of a small open house I was doing. Oh, yeah. I met this beautiful man well before I came to Keller Williams, and he happened to just talk to me and then tell me he was going to send me videos, and I have yet to see one of them because they get flagged by my spam filter.
One of my finer moments.
Awesome. Any wins for the weekend, guys? It's a beautiful weekend other than the fact that our city's on fire, but I wanted to see how everyone else's weekend went, business-wise.
I got somebody in contract.
Yeah! High five!
Yes.
And the only one without a camera on tonight. Oh, Eileen, too. Two of yous. Look at that.
I have camera on.
Yeah.
I got a.
Don't. So there's a question in the chat. Does a seller require to call solar before leaving listing? Before leaving listing? Okay. Yes. The seller does need the seller does need to contact their solar company, let them know they're selling the house, and prepare the transfer documentation. Awesome. Anything other wins? We got one person get a contract in this weekend. Will the rest of us taking the weekend off?
I got a buyer this weekend at an open house.
Nice. Angela was working. How about you, Phoenix boys and girls?
Had a couple meetings this weekend with some good friends of mine and a couple leads, so definitely made some progress. But
Are they in your CRM?
what's that?
Are they in your CRM? Are they in command?
Putting them in right now.
Awesome. You can do it at 8:30. You can wait just a little bit.
Hey, Dan, could I chime in on something on that contract?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
I just, I wanted for everyone to know we had to go quite a bit higher than list price to even be considered. So maybe Dan could speak to that with what's happening in the market.
No, why don't you tell me the text that you sent me that it precludes to this conversation?
We lost a bid on the first house we looked at, and we bid 10,000 over.
Oh,
So my clients were really upset. So we had to go even higher than that on the second one. And also I had to pin down the agent and say, look, with everything that's happening, this was a Saturday, I called them at 9 a.m. I said, we like your place. We have a couple more to see. If we make an offer today, could you tell us by 5 p.m.? Because I don't want to waste my client's time. They you know, there's a lot happening in the market. If we give you more than asking, can you let us know by 5? And they said yes. So I held him to his word. He had 5 other showings that afternoon and then 6 booked for Sunday. And he went ahead and canceled the Sunday and took our offer. But we bid a little bit outside of the range there on the high side of what was selling in the market. And the agent does realize that the appraisal contingency protects my client. So that's the only reason my client said, I want to go this high. I would even go higher. But I felt like I had to protect them and do just the very high end of the market. So anyway, it was a judgment call on my behalf, and it happened to work.
Good. Well, to give some insight, what was the price point on that house, Hope?
2099, and it had a pool.
So 209. So going 10,000 over on a $200,000 list, and they lost. Give some insight. Like 10,000 over on a $500,000 house, not a big deal. 10,000 over on a $200,000 house, a little bit more drastic. 5% increases are kind of big.
Dan,
big. Yes, ma'am.
the first one that we lost on was 245, and we went more than 255 and lost it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Both had pools.
So northwest side pools, 200 to 250, just know that you're competing with at least 12 other people. Now is the time to have conversations with people to sell their houses. I have never, and I mean never, seen a time where you can literally pick up a listing. Here's my listing. Slap on some photos, and they could just be ratchet, half-ass, iPhone, you're in every shot, selfie photos. Put a cardboard sign in the front yard and get multiple offers the first weekend.
Yep.
It's because there is so much demand still out in the marketplace, guys. This is not the time to take time off. This is not the time to sit around and wait for shit to go back to normal. Normal's not gonna happen. Your new norm is competing with 12 other agents. Do you have the skill sets? Do you have the scripts? Do you know what to put in the contracts? Do you know how to talk to the other agents? I think that's what we focus on this week. We focus on how do we have those conversations, those specific scripting conversations that allow you to get a little bit more agreement with other sided agents, allow you to get your buyers and sellers to be a little bit more agreeable in negotiation, and help you win the deal.
Hey, Hope, did you guys have an acceleration clause in your contract, or is anyone using acceleration clauses right now in their contracts?
Dan was right about calling the agent. That's a good one. Whenever you call your agents, just, as you know, get a good pulse for things. And he said that she didn't want to see anything like that. She didn't want to counter. She wanted just absolute highest and best. So I did not employ I considered it the escalation clause, but no, I didn't go there. And it was because I got a pulse for things really early on to write the cleanest offer I could. I went with their title company. I kept it a 10-day window. I have inspections lined up already for tomorrow, but I did everything that the agent told me to do to make it happen.
Gotcha.
Emily, what are you guys seeing in the market? Hold on a second. Emily, what are you guys seeing out there? Because you're up Northwest too, fighting in your offers versus list.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the offers in that 200 to 250 range, it's absolutely crazy. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that things appraise. I mean, and the thing is in that 200 to 250, there's so many cash offers because of our retiree population that it's super hard to get someone that's FHA or first-time home buyer into these homes. But yeah, you have to be pretty much willing to give your highest and best first out. But I always add that escalation clause no matter what, because it doesn't need a counter. It just means I will outdo anybody's offer by X amount up to this amount. So I always add it just because it's a safety measure for that price range, especially if I know there's multiple offers going in. If there's not multiple offers going in, then I don't add it. But if I've called the agent and I know that there's several, I always include the escalation clause.
You know, and I agree with that. I just did one of the bid for my client. We put the escalation clause in. We also said that no matter what the appraisal came in, we'd make up the difference. And we gave them a date that we'd close by. Now, maybe the other agent wants just the highest and best, but he has to present all the offers to his client. The agent doesn't make the decision. It's the client. And when they see an offer that is solid and they're totally protected, you are selling to that seller.
All right, let me jump back. Was it Larry that I cut off earlier? I apologize.
Yeah, no problem at all. So what I'd like to hear is some other people's conversation with a buyer setting expectations about it going above market or above market and potentially going above what the appraisal might come in. What's the conversation? I want to hear some other people's conversation with their client about, you know, if we go this high, there's a risk of the appraisal not coming in. What's the rest of that conversation?
Well, can I respond to that, Larry?
Sure.
I sit down with my client in this one, and I said, do you want to win this house or do you want to lose it? Are you willing to, this is a house you really want to lose it for $2,000, $3,000? Or are you, how far can you go? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I got his agreement. He says, yes, I want this house. And you've got to sit down with them. You got to talk about winning and losing the house, because people don't think about that. But if you want this house so bad and someone outbids you by $2,000, you're going to be kicking yourself. Or kicking your
Right,
agent.
and the other thing, yeah, and the thing is, it's all about motivation of your buyer, which is what he's talking about. It's, if your buyer is, first-time home buyer, they have no cash, they're doing everything FHA, and they're lucky they're getting the 3.5%, and they really wish they could get seller concessions, that's not going to work. And
Right.
you just have to have them be realistic. It's going to be a house that's not going to be as gorgeous as you like. It's not going to be as this. And so it depends on what their motivation is. And maybe it's not the right time for them to buy, or it's not the right area. And so you just have to really have that heart to heart going, okay, if you're in the Northwest and you're in this certain price point, you have to be willing to do X, Y, or Z. So you're either having to go way over on a $200,000 house, or just keep your fingers crossed and do your SAP-SOB video instead of a letter or email. Do a little video to the agent and, do your best to schmooze it your direction. But, you just have to be able to check your buyer's motivation. And if they're just kind of, well, it doesn't really matter, or we don't have to buy right now, then just, let them be realistic. Then you're not going to get this house.
Amen.
I like that.
Oh, I was just going to make another point. My client found out really quickly that they had to change the area of town they were looking at. They still got their pool, still got their fireplace, still got the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but they were stuck on a masonry home, and they didn't want an HOA. So they ended up getting in a home with an HOA, which is frame and stucco. So they found out about patients changing really quick. Otherwise, they were going to be pushed closer to the 300,000 mark.
Right.
So that's great, guys. Keep going.
You need to have a come to Keller discussion with all your agents, or with all your clients. It's like come to Jesus. This is how things are, and you got to really spell it out.
So that also pins off our conversation about being extremely realistic of where you're at, what market we're working in. So it's like Larry said, what kind of conversations are we having with our buyers? Let's talk about the tail end of that. All right, Mr. Buyer, we're going to put our offer in for $10,000 over on this $200,000 listing. In the event that it doesn't appraise, what are we going to do? What do you mean? Well, the market comps that I showed you on this house show that it's valued at $205,000. It's listed at $200,000. The agent knows that the market in the area it does need some work. If the appraisal comes through and says the house is not worth $210,000, the bank will not loan you that money. Either we need the seller to reduce the sales price, which is unlikely, the fact that he's got multiple offers and one of them more competitive than yours, or you pay out of pocket the difference.
Absolutely.
You don't want to set your people up for failure. In the appraisal contingency, what do the buyers lose? Let's take it away from the fact that it's just a protection thing for them. Knowing the contract as a buyer's agent in this situation, what do the buyers risk losing?
Earnest money.
What else?
The house.
Well, the house, of course.
They're out inspections.
The house, their inspections, the appraisal cost.
The appraisal cost.
Yeah.
So they're going to get their earnest money back because the appraisal contingency is the release hold for that. Your buyer is entitled to get that back. Once the seller and once the buyer receives the appraisal amount, if it does come in less than the sales agreed upon price, or if there's any conditions involved, the buyers have 5 days to decide what they want to do. And during those 5 days, they can cancel the contract with no recourse and get their earnest money back. They are out the inspections and they are out the appraisals. So if they don't have the funds or the reserve or the opportunity to bring that in, that needs to be a serious conversation you're having with them. In the event this does not appraise, this is where we're at. Because what we're seeing in the market, and this is, I have the lovely ability of seeing a lot of contracts coming in and out and talking to you guys, is appraisals are trying to keep the market in place. even though there's multiple offers and these houses are selling like hotcakes at an all-you-can-eat festival, appraisers are like, nope, $9,000 on, $10,000 under, $7,000 under. Oh, you want 205? It's worth 199. So
Well, you need to talk to
And they're
people
all
about,
from Phoenix.
they are all from Phoenix. Yes, Dick.
you know, you need to talk to people about the fact that appraisals are looking at the last 6 months. The last 6 months was before the pandemic. It's before everything else. Now we have to be realistic. This is what the house could sell for. That's the market value. You got to understand the market value versus the appraised value from some guy working for the bank.
Right. So Emily hit it on the head. There's a lot of appraisers coming out of Phoenix. The Phoenix market is not as intrinsic as Tucson. Tucson, for some reason, is a hotter market than Phoenix.
Absolutely.
We have less inventory and more motivated buyers, which is a strange combination to see that we're in a seriously heavy seller's market and we have buyers that are fighting for deals. This is when you need to have all of your ducks in a row, have all of your research, because the onus is on the seller's agent to have the valuation of the house done. But if you're not doing your comps and you're not running all of the values in the house that you're putting an offer in for, you are doing your clients a disservice.
Can
Do
I
the
ask-
research.
Dan,
Go
can I
ahead.
ask a question about the whole appraisal thing? Can I go back really quick?
Yeah.
What you had said, so if my client puts in an offer for 220, that's $5,000 over the asking price, and then it gets appraised at the 215. Are you saying that now, okay, if the seller says, sorry, you know, I have multiple offers, we're going to take a different one. Are you saying that my buyer would be responsible because the bank's only going to loan them the 215, right? So they're going to be responsible to come up with $5,000 or whatever it is over, right? Is that how it?
Yes,
Okay, gosh,
that's accurate.
that's really good information because I didn't even know that. So if I would have came across a situation where my buyer wanted to go over, I would have been like, go ahead. I would have been thinking, oh, if it appraises lower, we'll go back to the seller, which you can go back to the seller. But if there's multiple offers, they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to take less, right?
And on top of that, if you got closing costs involved in the deal,
Yeah.
then you can go ahead and guarantee that those are getting cut, slashed, or reduced. Eileen, do you mind if I show your explanation, or do you mind if I talk about your situation publicly?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I know.
Okay. Eileen's got a house out in Sahuarita, priced at $169. $169. It's a beautiful little small house, great little 2-bedroom, $169. The market all day. It listed 2 months ago during the middle of Rona. It went under contract. It got an appraisal about a month ago, a little bit less than a month ago, at $160. Anyone see an issue with that $9,000 reduction on a $169,000 property? The appraisers are, like I said, trying to keep things in line because they don't, that's their playing God, some people think. So instantly the seller's like, no, we're going to cancel the deal. Eileen calls me, texts me, says, hey, what do I do? What are my options? We talk about it. I was like, your sellers can cancel. Give the buyers their earnest money back, put it back on the market, whatever. She's like, oh, my sellers aren't going to sell. Okay, great. Well, then they're not going to buy the house that they're looking for. She happens to be doing a double-sided deal. The other options you have in that is there are closing costs. There were closing costs in her deal. She is the listing agent, which only accounted for about $3,000 of that total amount. So now we're $6,000 away. What avenues would you take to close that divide when your sellers are not willing to move?
Well, there's a couple different things. I mean, you can ask them to split, do a 50-50, 3,000 from you guys, 3,000 from them. And then after that, it's just getting their motivation and really saying, you will not buy your house over here for $6,000, which is going to be less than $20 a month in a mortgage on the other house. I mean, come on. So it's all about motivation. You have to be, if you want to get really crazy and you want to start slashing your commission, which I would never do, that's another option, but I don't recommend it.
Yeah, cutting your commission is a last resort. unfortunately, that's what happened in this deal. We took a percent on both sides. So we took a percent from the listing agent and percent from the seller's agent, because that's to get the deal done. Both sides need to participate. But Emily's absolutely right. Going back to motivation, we had a client that wasn't super motivated to sell, and they were finding themselves in a very difficult situation. They on the house they were putting an offer in on, that seller became frustrated with the back and forth and said, you know what, I don't want to deal with your clients anymore. Take my deal or not, I'm done. And so her clients bailed. They're like, cool, we're out. Give us our earnest money back. We're canceling the deal. And sellers are starting to turn that way. So I want you guys to know that this is time to play nice as a buyer, and don't try to win one over or win. This is how we do a win-win situation, is when we try to play nice, make everything and the only way that we can serve our clients best is to do what?
Communicate with the other agent.
Communicate with the other agent. Absolutely.
Get the deal closed.
And thank you, Nicole. Get the deal closed. Our jobs are to deliver them to closing.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, sometimes that means we get beat up, kicked, scratched, and scraped up in the process. But having these conversations in open form, let us know what's going on with your deals. I'll let you know what's going on in the deals that I oversee. And you guys are going to have a much better insight on the marketplace, so you know how to traverse them. Step one, talk to the other agent, open up lines of communication, make a friend. They will work for you when they know you guys are working together and not as adversaries.
Right.
If they've got multiple offers and you're the only person that called them and said, hey, Joe, I hope your day's going well. You have a beautiful house. What is going on in your life? Have you been okay? How are your kids? How's your wife? I've seen your name on a couple of signs out here. You're killing it, man. What can you tell me about this house? And the other agent's like, is it vacant? Can we go see it? Do you have any offers? Click. Is it vacant? Can we see it? Do you have any offers? Click. Or the agents that don't even call, don't even text, don't even have some kind of insight. Open up those lines of communication. This is the time that you need to put on your charming boots and go out there and schmooze the world.
Well, Dan, keep in mind, Dan, when I called at 9:30 that morning, they had no offers. So I didn't know I was in a multiple bid situation, you know? But Emily's right. The escalation clause could never hurt. But yeah, by the close of the day, 6 offers. So that's what we're up against.
Assume that if it's under $200,000 in the Northwest, or it's around $200,000 on the Northwest side, you've got multiple offers. Unless that thing was on fire.
I was just going to say that, just, you know, it may not have an offer when you make that phone call. 10 minutes later, another offer is likely to show up in this market.
And just to clarify, it wasn't Northwest, it was Southwest. We started Northwest. Yeah.
You have to remember that it's not about us. It's about our client. And if we don't communicate with our client and communicate with the agent and talk about negotiation, we got to get everybody on the same plane and know the limits. You know, the old song about you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Yes, sir.
That's our job.
So speaking of clauses, guys, everyone has access into Dot Loop. So if you go into your Dot Loop and click on templates, at the bottom of the templates roll down, there's a clauses tab, and the escalation clause is the second one. You guys can read that and use it, put it on page 8 of your contracts. Make sure you fill it out.
That's a good idea.
I was just gonna say, I hope everyone knows what one is, because, you know, I'm a few months into it now, and I finally, a few months ago, I learned what it was. So I wasn't sure if I was wondering if Isaac knew what it was.
I'm years into the business, and I didn't start using escalation clauses until I came to Keller Williams.
Thank God you came.
Right.
So, question on the escalation clause, just and part of this is clarifying for everybody, but part of it is, huh?
Oh, Teresa's raising her hand. We'll get to you.
Okay. The escalation clause calls for the other agent to provide the highest offer to validate the offer, the price that you're at, or your escalation clause is in that 1,000. My question is, are they supposed to do that prior to accepting the deal?
Yes.
Okay, because I was in it.
If the seller exercises the escalation clause, seller agrees to provide buyer with a copy of the competing offer that initiated the escalation clause.
Yeah, but when? Prior to acceptance or after acceptance?
Simultaneously.
Well, here's the reason I asked this question. I got into an escalation clause, and the seller's side never talked to, I said, hey, where's your next best offer at and stuff. No, because we exposed how high we would go in the escalation clause, they just tried to get after us on that high number. Then I just realized that in my mind, I don't remember seeing that the escalation clause says that they have to provide that other offer prior to acceptance, or is it after acceptance, which after acceptance, you're locked into a deal.
Yeah. It's prior to, it technically would be prior to acceptance. If they send you back and say, yes, it's this amount, like there is no other written form. What they do is you'll have your purchase offer with the escalation clause. They'll have their purchase offer with the highest and best competitive, and you match the net best, meaning the net after concessions and commission reductions and refrigerators and everything. That offer combined allows your offer to, on the face value, increase. There is no other written number.
Well, you can also put in that you want to see the other offers within 2 days of the acceptance of the contract. You can actually bridge that. And, I tell my other agents, I say, I'm going to make your client an offer that they can't refuse.
Well, my question though is, I want to know if I'm legally able to ask for that other offer prior to submitting my offer.
If you put a term in there that they got to show it within 2 days or 3 days of accepted offer, and they don't,
yeah, okay,
then you're out.
gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
not even
After acceptance.
it's after, not
It's
even that.
after acceptance.
Yeah, but you get the contract, Larry. If they say, okay, we're doing an escalation clause, we're going to start our base at 200,000, list price at 200,000, and we will beat the next best net offer by $1,000, not to exceed 210,000. Meaning you're willing to go up to $210,000. So if someone comes in at 209 net, you'll go to 210. And they have to prove to you, they have to send you that purchase offer that's been signed. They can redact out the names, keep, privacy, to prove that that offer was indeed. So the one that's in DocuSign Dotloop has got, it's pretty generic stuff to help you get your escalations in there. Another one that I've written is very much more wordy, and I can share that to you guys if you want to direct message me.
So
I want to get you
to go. Make it specific for the offer.
Yes.
And then say at the very end, under pain of mortal sin.
All right, Teresa, what was your question?
I was just going to share too, following this conversation. I had a followed up lady that, as we was talking last week on a lead, and she, I was just looking, type of thing. And I'm like, well, that's all right. She goes, I said, I just didn't know if you were, planning on buying. She's like, oh, I already have a house. That's okay. I was just looking. And I'm like, okay. So I sent her an email and I listened like you get us to do. And she has a house, but obviously she's thinking about selling because she's just looking. So I sent her an email like I would a seller. And, so since you are curious about what the market's doing, and I shared with her a little bit about what the market is doing, and then told her I'd love to, take some time to talk to her more about it. And then I didn't hear anything for a couple of days. So then I texted her Friday, and she's like, yeah, I did get your email. Thank you. And you know what? I hate my house and I do want to sell it. And we're just debating on whether to fix it up and sell it or sell it as is. And we just don't know what to do. So that was awesome. So now I got her a CMA. I'm going to be getting an appointment set this week. And it's on the east side. And doing the research in their area, I mean, it's amazing. And she, of course, said she was doing research on Zillow, trying to find out what her house was worth. So I was able to pull that up, and Zillow showed her house was worth like 181. Realtor showed it's 174. And by doing the CMAs, I was able to do two different types, one with the price per square footage comparable to others around them. And that gave a 185.9, almost 186 through the MLS. And the other one was a little lower, but it's about the communication. And I was real excited. This will be my first listing. And it was just, if I just let it go, I would not have got this. And thank you, Dan, for helping us to listen and be persistent. And in her area in the east side, I mean, it's amazing. I pulled up homes that are selling in 3 days over market value, just like what you're talking about. It's happening everywhere. But I did have to caution her. I said, we can maybe go a little bit higher than what the recommended price is saying based on the MLS data, but you also have to be careful because it needs to appraise. So, trying to, as a seller, trying to get their expectations to be realistic also. But yeah.
If I could just jump on that for a second, Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a buyer's market. This is a seller's market. The seller is in the catbird seat. Mm-hmm. And, tell people up front, Zillow doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah. Don't rely upon Zillow, and you go, if I tell my seller, look, you may have to turn down a few offers, but within the next month, you're going to get a better price. That's what they want to hear, and that's what's going to happen.
Well, that's what I wanted to prove to them. So I did prove to her that even using our MLS data, the MLS data is showing that you can safely list it for 185.9. Zillow's showing 181. So that's immediately giving her more. And then I was also saying how we can list it even higher than what the MLS is showing.
You did right, but the mindset is you really don't have to prove to them. You're the expert. When you speak, they're going to listen.
Well, it goes back to the stats too, Dick. My immediate and early on Zillow experience gave me this line, which is pretty accurate. First of all, I like, the A in Zillow is for accurate. But secondly, Zillow gets their Zestimate number by an aggregate zip code average. They average an entire zip code. That's how they place an estimate on a particular property. And I learned this, short story, way up on the west side, there was a 3,000 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, custom home on 3.3 acres listed for $375,000. I got a phone call from a guy that I was talking to looking up in that area. And he goes, what's wrong with this property? Zillow says it's worth 181. It was listed at 375, but it was in the 85741 zip code. So what's 41?
Yeah.
Old Father, Ina.
Big section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The longest zip codes in our city.
He goes, so, what the heck, how, why are the taxes so high? How can this property be priced like this? And I told him, because Zillow averages the entire zip code as an aggregate and then spits out a number.
Larry,
on the Zillow page.
Yeah. And that is, I remember Zillow came to my office back in Michigan, to all of our agents, and they said, we know our estimates are not correct. Their main purpose is to sell advertising through us. And they know that it's incorrect. So I've got that personal knowledge. And I tell people, hey, I've been there. I've talked to the Zillow rep. The estimates are not accurate. And how they come up with it, and you just have a good analogy there, based upon a zip code. This is where we have to say, hey, we are the realtor. We are Keller Williams. We're out for you. We're helping you.
We're out for you, dude.
We know our business.
We are out for you.
What?
Yeah, we're out for you. So anyway, it comes back to the market stats. So Teresa's on the right track. Let me CMA your neighborhood. Zillow is estimating the entire zip code. So that's why it's important to drill down to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, so go ahead. I put a link in the chat. We're going to end on this point. Read the disclaimer. It's literally the second paragraph of the page. And you can go through and look at the Zestimate in the metropolitan areas for our Zestimates, and they're saying that Phoenix has a median error of 1.3%, and 98.5% of their houses are within 10% of the sales price. But it says right up top, it is not an appraisal and should be used as a starting point. We encourage buyers and sellers and homeowners to supplement the Zestimate with other research, such as visiting the home, getting a professional appraisal of your home, or requesting a comparative market analysis from a real estate agent. So that is where you guys can point people back to where it says, hey, Zillow gave me the estimate on my house. That's fantastic. That's a great starting point. That sounds like you and I need to get together and nail this down. Little story to cut it off with. House on the east side, got a referral from a lady. I went and looked at it on Friday. She wants to sell it for $235,000, which would be the top of the price range. She needs about $15,000 worth of work to get at that point. And that's what I told her. You can sell it at $235,000. You're going to need to replace this, and this, paint the whole dang place, make it pretty, make it work. She's like, oh. I was like, or you can sell it at $205,000. We can sell it as is. You can get your money and walk away. Oh. So be the professional. Put boots on the ground. Get your eyes out there, because you are not Zillow. You are a human being, and you have tons and tons of resources around you. I am a resource. Utilize it. You guys are awesome. Thank you for spending some extra time with me today. Go do something.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Bye, guys.